Do you see the irony? The more you chase, the further she runs. The more you plead, the more she recoils. But when you rise above the chaos, when you master the ancient art of holding yourself like stone in the storm, her world begins to fracture. She starts replaying every word, every look, every memory, searching for the man who no longer bends for her validation. This is not arrogance. This is power. A power carved from self-control, born from detachment and sharpened by unshakable resolve. And as we go deeper into this journey, you will discover why the moment you withdraw your need is the exact moment she discovers her regret. So if you are ready to step into this truth, if you are ready to stop being controlled and start becoming untouchable, then stay with me till the very end. And before we dive further, subscribe now, because this is where we turn your pain into unbreakable strength. There is a cruel truth about desire. It blinds us. You don't notice how much of yourself you're handing away until you're left standing empty. Think about the last time you wanted someone so badly. You bent your own values just to keep them close. You answered calls instantly. You dropped your priorities. You excused their coldness just to be chosen. And yet, the harder you tried, the more invisible you became. Isn't it strange how, in giving everything, we often end up with nothing? This is where the chains tighten, not on your wrists, but on your soul. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." But what do? We cling to what we cannot control. We obsess over her thoughts, her feelings, her choices, hoping, like prisoners begging for scraps, that she might return what we gave. And in that obsession, we lose the one thing a man must never lose: his dignity. We become like actors in her play, waiting for the next script, the next approval, the next sign we matter. But here's the paradox that burns like fire in the chest. The very moment you stop begging for her attention, the moment you no longer collapse at her absence, is the exact moment she begins to feel yours. Why? Because power is never found in pursuit. It's found in restraint. She doesn't regret when you cling. She regrets when she realizes she no longer controls you. And this raises the question you must face tonight. Will you keep serving a role in someone else's story, or will you finally become the author of your own? And here's the dangerous part. When you decide to step back, when you choose indifference, something shifts inside her. You'll see it. You'll feel it. But what happens next is even darker. In the next chapter, we'll step into that silence and expose why your absence screams louder than your presence. There comes a chilling moment when the one who once thought she owned your attention suddenly realizes she has none of it. At first, she may laugh it off, pretending your silence means nothing. But in the quiet of the night, when the phone stays dark, when your absence is louder than her presence, a seed begins to grow inside her. Not love, not longing, fear. Fear that she no longer has the power to pull you back. Fear that you've risen above the invisible strings she once held. And fear, my friend, is the most potent regret a human being can taste. Have you ever noticed how people only understand the value of something the moment it slips into the shadows? Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." This is exactly what begins to consume her. She imagines you with someone else. She imagines your mind at peace, untouched by her absence. She imagines that the pedestal she once stood on has crumbled into dust. And in that imagination, she suffers. Not because you've done anything, but because you've done nothing. Your stillness is sharper than any blade. Your calm is more unsettling than rage. and this is where her control begins to corrode, because she cannot fight a man who has chosen himself. But here lies the sinister beauty of this transformation. When you finally let go, when you no longer kneel at the altar of her validation, something inside her snaps. She feels the weight of her own fragility, the emptiness of her own games. And here's the darkest question you must ask yourself. Are you strong enough to hold your ground when she tries to return, when she seeks to reignite what she once destroyed? Because if you falter, if you let her back into the throne she once occupied, you will fall again. And in the next chapter, we step into this final test, the return of what once broke you, and the deadly choice every man must face. It always happens when you least expect it. The same voice that once dismissed you, the same eyes that once looked past you, now search for you again. She returns, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of losing control, fear of the silence you've mastered, fear that you've become untouchable. And yet, she will disguise this return with sweet words, gentle tones, and subtle promises. But remember this, shadows often return dressed in light. The question is, will you see through it, or will you fall back into the very chains you once fought to break? Epictetus warned us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. What he meant is simple. Your strength will often be misunderstood. She may call it pride, she may call it arrogance. But what you hold in your chest is not arrogance, it is freedom. And the moment you let her back in without caution, you surrender that freedom again. Think carefully. What is more valuable, a fleeting return of her attention, or the permanent strength you've built by walking away? Because this is the test life sets before every man who has learned the art of indifference. To hold the line even when the past comes knocking, dressed as comfort. But here lies the darkest truth. Sometimes the greatest danger is not losing her, it is letting her back in. And in the next chapter, we will confront that razor's edge decision, the choice that defines whether you remain free or fall back into the prison of your own weakness. Every man who has tasted freedom will eventually face the test of temptation. The past comes knocking, her voice soft, her presence familiar, her touch heavy with memories. And this is where most men collapse, because weakness never announces itself with chains. It comes disguised as comfort. She will remind you of the good. She will paint over the scars. She will make you question the strength you fought so hard to build. But remember this, comfort is the most dangerous prison. It feels safe, it feels warm, yet it slowly robs you of your fire until you are nothing but ashes. And once again, you'll find yourself begging for what should have never been your master. Marcus Aurelius whispered a warning across the centuries. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Ask yourself, what is power worth if you hand it back the moment it is tested? Will you let her back into the throne of your emotions, or will you finally guard your soul as a fortress no one can trespass? The man who masters himself is feared because he cannot be moved by sweet words or hollow promises. But here's the cruel twist. You are about to discover that when you deny her return, when you choose your freedom over her comfort, the game doesn't end. It only turns darker. And in the next video, we'll open the door to that shadow, the place where her regret transforms into obsession,